Republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening once again. Thanks for coming out. I just wanted to begin by congratulating the high school students who were inducted into Tri-M last week. It was a nice assembly and performance and awards and just a nice celebration for those kids that demonstrated musical talents and abilities in the high school during their ceremony. And I was also able to get down to West School. You can't beat the Little Red Hen. Kindergarten at West put it on last week, and it was a very, very cute performance. It was just fun to watch little ones, whether they were wolves or cows or little red hens or pigs. They were all very, very cute. I'd also like to express the regrets of Mr. Sam Pinto, who had some long-standing family commitments, and would not be able to be here tonight for the meeting. He sends his regrets. At this point, I'll turn it over to the superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. And I turn it over to Mr. DeVito for our final budget presentation in preparation for budget adoption.
Thanks, Dr. Gallagher. So this evening, we're going to present the final draft budget. I know there have been different iterations over the course of the past several months, and this is our final draft. Again, the draft to the board for their comments and adoption, and also our final revenue projection that shows what we project our revenue to be for next year. So I call it second draft total budget because the first line by line put on the website a few weeks ago, and now we have a second draft since that time. What we do between the first and the second draft is that we look at all the lines again, see where some adjustments need to be made, either based on some new information or just based on a little bit of more time to have a chance to review it. And you'll see there were some changes, some updates, and I'll go over those this evening. Our proposed budget, you see, is a variance of about 2.85% compared to the original budget of the current year. What I have here is our revenue projection for next year. You see the third column, I have the 2024-25, what I call the optimistic revenue projection. We still don't have a finalized state budget. Hopefully it'll come down in the next few days, but this is based on the fact, as I mentioned last time, that we get the same level of foundation aid as the current year. Other revenue, you see a slight dip based on our projection for the current year, and that's due to the fact that we think interest rates will come down a bit, and the interest we're earning on our bank accounts, and also we don't expect the one-time payment that we received from FEMA for some COVID relief. We don't expect that next year. Those are the main drivers of the reduction. With a little bit of an offset, we do expect a little bit more tuition from Island Park based on an increase in the number of students who will be attending our high school from Island Park. LIPA pilot fluctuates year to year. We do our best guess. They never really tell us exactly how much we're going to get from LIPA. And just for those who are unfamiliar with the acronym pilot, that means payment in lieu of taxes. So several years ago, LIPA said they wanted, and they got some legislation to actually pay a pilot instead of tax as a utility. Our tax levy, what you see here, it's our latest proposal, is an increase of 1.5%. And the number there is just about $1.6 million. And as I've been saying, because our tax levy is very close to $100 million, that each percent increase is about $1 million. So you see the 1.5% increase is a little bit over $1.6 million. The next line item is appropriated fund balance. And sometimes people get confused about what that really means in terms of appropriating fund balance. Really, the best way to think about it is that if we're expecting an operating surplus in the current year, which we are, it means that we're going to take some of that money and put it towards next year's expenses. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be taking out of the district savings account, and there is one, what's called the unassigned fund balance, or the specific reserve accounts, and we have several of those for workers' comp expenses, for pension expenses. But it's really, we're going to use some of the surplus that we anticipate having this year to use it to offset next year's expenses. And that's how we arrive at our 155,946,049. That's the same number that you saw in this previous slide, our proposed budget, and that's how we balance it. Take our different revenue categories. We start with state aid, we look at other revenue, the LIPA pilot, we figure out where we want to be in terms of the tax levy, and then sometimes what we'll do in order to have a little bit of flexibility in the tax levy is we'll appropriate some of the current year's surplus towards next year's expenses. And you can see that number's fluctuated. So for the current year, we said we were going to use about $953,000 to balance the budget. And for next year, we said we're going to have about $1.4 million to use to offset next year's expenses. What's in the proposed budget? So we've talked about this over the past several presentations about a social worker that's currently funded in the ARC grant, one of the grants that we received to help with the COVID general term learning loss. It allowed us to fund different things, different programs. So one of them, as well as staff, was the social worker. So then we were back and forth on whether we wanted to put it added to the budget or not added to the budget. That's in the budget for next year. 2 wings teachers were part of that ARC grant. Also, they've been added into next year's program. All school assistant or vice principal positions have been added, right? The reason why we're talking about some of these elements now is because over the past couple of months, we've talked about maybe they should be reduced or not. We just wanted to be clear for everybody that these are the things that are in the proposed budget. Also, all the AIS teacher positions, because again, there was some discussion about whether that was going to be in the budget or not. STEM and Spanish positions in the elementary schools, LARC, that had been discussed. It's in the budget for next year, the full program. All permanent substitute teacher positions, again, that had been bandied about, that's in. Arts and education, it's a BOCES line item, different programs that we get through BOCES, and that's in the budget. And the 5 assistant coaching positions that were reduced in a prior draft are in the budget for next year, as well as all district-funded field trips, including Frost Valley, where we normally send our 6th graders, and Coleman Country Day Camp trip. What's in the proposed budget, and you'll see these 4 bullets have been added since the first draft line by line. So a revised elementary enrichment program. So it's not going to be the same program we've had for the past 3 years, but it will be more than the clubs we had prior to the enrichment program. So we're looking at one session, mostly in the winter, so it'll span over several months. And we have funded that. That's in the budget. That's something that's a new item from the last time we talked about the budget. One additional special education teacher for West School, that was added. That was more of a correction in terms of it. It's not that we've just discovered that we need additional section there, is that when we reviewed the line-by-line budget over the past week or 2, we realized that we really needed to add the funding for another position there. Additional funding for projected district-wide natural gas expenditure. Again, as part of our review over the past couple of weeks, we realized that we need more funding in that line item based on current rates and based on what we think next year's usage and rates will be. So we added some money there. We also added some additional funding for books for our non-public school students, again, based on a closer look at that line item. And we opted to go for a 3-year lease-to-own program for musical instruments instead of a 5, just because it reduces the overall financing cost in the district. And so we needed to add a little bit of money there, but that was offset by some reductions in the instrument rental. So it was almost a wash between those 2 elements. What is not in the proposed budget? That 1 curriculum director position that we've pretty much spoken about for the past couple of months, as well as the grant-funded special education administrator that was not added into the budget. Again, we've been speaking about that from the beginning, so that really hasn't changed. We have in total approximately 8 teaching positions that are not in next year's budget based on enrollment decline. For the most part, I think if not all, well, actually, let's just start with for the most part, that's going to be through attrition, through retirements. So we have several positions, several teachers who are retiring. So It doesn't really impact the layoff of a teacher. That position is being eliminated as that teacher is retiring, and it's based on district enrollment decline. Just be able to do some consolidation, have some efficiencies. So 8 teaching positions have been reduced. The next teacher line item, teacher dedicated to the implementation of the mindfulness program, is a bump out, right? So that teacher who is dedicated to mindfulness now goes back into the classroom and then bumps out a recently hired teacher. And that's a bump out as opposed to a retirement. Besides the 5 retirements, in terms of the decline of the 8, it's really pieces of different positions. So some of them are going to be reduced, and there's some reshuffling in terms of different teachers. So again, it's really a very low impact in terms of the teacher actually being let go. It's more that there are some efficiencies and some retirements to come up with that actual elimination of these positions. What is not in the proposed budget, mechanic positions we've been talking about since the beginning, approximately 160,000 of professional development, and those were across various functions. We are still going to have professional development for our teaching staff. We have 2 grants that are dedicated to professional development. And we also still have professional development in the general fund budget. We had, in the past several years, a lot of professional development for the new Teachers College curriculum for iReady, and that we felt that for next year we could pause on that and reduce some of the professional development because we have been doing so much of it. And then, as I said, the funding for the musical instrument rentals offsets the increase in that lease to own. Funding for in-district related services is, if you take a look in the line-by-line budget, you'll see different elements for special education related services. And based on change of needs for the annual review process, based on the fact that we have in-house staff now, we don't have to bring in different vendors, different special providers, that we're able to reduce those in-district related services budget lines because those children either don't need it, but for the most part, it's because we have hired our own staff to provide these services, so we don't need to contract out. So again, as you look through the line items, you say, oh, we have this staff member now, we can reduce the contractor line item for that service. And upcoming important dates, we have our budget hearing on the 14th. That's a chance for anybody to come to a board meeting and just voice their opinion on the adopted budget. Tonight is the adoption, which means that the board has an opportunity to adopt the budget, meaning this is the budget they're going to put forward to the community for the vote on May 21st. And this is really the end of the budget process in terms of the meetings, the discussions, what's in, what's out, what the final number is. And then on the 14th, people can come and say what they like about it, what maybe they don't like about it, how they feel about the budget before the actual vote that goes before the community. And that's the conclusion of the presentation for this evening. Thank you for your attention, and now we have comments and questions from the board.
Any board member like to begin? Chelsea?
Am I on?
Yes.
Yeah. In the back, very much. How about now? Yep. First off, thank you, Michael, for putting this together. I know that this was not what you would call a labor of love, but definitely a labor that you put your heart into, and we
Thank you.
appreciate all the work that you did. Would you just please explain to me and anyone else who's not really sure what the funding the musical instruments and the lease-to-own program, what exactly the lease-to-own program is?
Sure.
Thank you.
What it is, it's through BOCES, and it's a program where we finance the actual purchase of these instruments. So we lease them until it's fully paid off over a 3-year period, then we own them. So we will receive the musical instruments in time for September. So all the students will receive new, I don't know if it's every student, but a substantial number of new instruments will be in the district starting in September. We'll take the next 3 years plus the month of June, if the way it's structured. But it's 3 years. It's 36 months of payments to BOCES. And in that period of time, we're actually considered leasing the instruments, and then when we're all paid off, we own them. So we'll have them, which is great. So we have instruments we own, we have instruments we rented, and this seems to be a more cost-effective way of having the instruments and having a better quality of the instruments. So this was something that we put together with Julia Lang Shapiro and her department as a way of having newer, better instruments that the kids can enjoy.
Anybody else?
Yes, Michael? Mr. DeVito? Hi, thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you.
Just a quick question on the LIFO pilot. I know we've had this for a while. On the second page, why is having the LIFO pilot more advantageous to us than having them pay us taxes?
It's not actually. Yeah, it's just something that they receive as any property owner, usually like, let's say, park or some municipal facility will sometimes request a pilot or development, like we have some developments in town where they pay a pilot. And it's a break actually for that entity that they're able to make a payment instead of making it as part of their taxes where there are fluctuations. There are more regular fluctuations. Pilots, sometimes they increase, but it's more based on legislation. It's statutory, the increases. It's not determined by the need of the school district. So as a taxpayer, every taxpayer for their real property tax pays their share, right? Whether it's class 1, a homeowner, class 2, 3, or 4, the property owner pays their share. And it's determined by how much the district needs. The pilot is separate from that process, and the IDA determines what the level pilot should be. So we normally feel it's not advantageous to the district because it's a fixed payment for the most part. There's some fluctuation, but it's mostly a fixed payment we receive, right, in lieu of the taxes. But it's not really an advantage for us, generally speaking.
So is there any way for us to change that or no?
Not really.
Okay, I want to thank you for finding a way to bring it down to the 1.5 increase for the tax levy. And I know that you did that with figuring out ways where our programs won't suffer. So I thank you for that. I'm glad that many things we're able to keep in our proposed budget. I just want to make sure, you mentioned about the 8 teaching positions. Could you just explain that again? What did you mean by the low impact that would have on us?
And the fact that the reason why we're able to reduce these actual teaching positions or these lines is because we had a declining enrollment. So for example, at the middle school, we have 2 fewer sections, teachers who are doing 6th grade because of the low enrollment of the incoming 6th grade. So it doesn't really change the instruction, the classes, the class size. It's because we have such a lower number of students that are coming in as 6th graders next year that we're able to say we can offer the same program with 2 fewer teachers. Similar to the reduction at East or the reduction at West, when we talked about the reduction in a few sections, it's because the enrollment is lower. The kids who are scheduled to be in that particular grade for next year, there aren't as many of them, right? It's related to what we've been talking about in terms of an overall declining enrollment, but we can target it based on grade level. So the 6th grade we know is going to be lower. So we're going to reduce West School, what's coming in, lower, East School, lower. And that's where the bulk of those reductions are, those reductions. Then the pieces, so we talked about the high school presentation, the middle school presentation, a 0.4, 0.2, or 0.6. Again, based on program consolidation because of lower enrollment and also student requests. So if there aren't a lot of students who are requesting a particular class, we may not need a 0.2 of a particular teacher in that subject area. So we're able to reduce as well. And, where I'm saying it doesn't really have an impact is because the kids are still getting the program they've always received. There were just fewer kids, so there are fewer teachers needed.
Thank you. Also, we're not going to have the mindfulness teacher, but that doesn't mean that the mindfulness won't continue on within the classrooms.
Correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're all aware of that. And also, I know that you do a great job of making sure our community understands The budget,
Yeah.
do you have any plans to go into our community or any community centers?
Well, I have to check the schedule. I know tomorrow evening, I have an evening presentation for the Lido PTA. And I know that our office has contacted the Community Civic Association and the PTAs to set up presentations with them so that everybody has a clear understanding of what is going to be on the ballot in May. So I know for tomorrow, because I checked my calendar for tomorrow, I know I have Lido in the evening.
Thank you so much.
I just have one question, Mr. DeVito. Thank you for your presentation. You had mentioned the surplus of $900,000 that's going to be put towards the anticipated surplus that's going to be put towards the tax levy. So could you just explain to me, is an anticipated surplus of $900,000 excessive on a $155 million budget?
It's actually very low. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a lot of money to an individual, but when we're talking about, 3,500 kids, over 1,000 staff members and a $150 million budget, it's small in terms of the percentage. So we're expecting to, probably have, somewhere between $2 and $3 million in terms of surplus, mostly, as I mentioned earlier, the additional interest income that we weren't expecting the interest rates to stay so high, and a couple of other categories. So, we are at this point anticipating a little bit of a surplus. So we have choices with that surplus. We can either use it to offset the tax levy, which we've done here, or we can put it in reserve funds. That's basically our choice.
Right. Because I just think we all need edification on that point in terms of that some years, some budget codes show a profit.
Mm-hmm.
And others sometimes because of a catastrophe or a flood or a hurricane or a superstorm sort of need replenishing.
Yeah.
So on that line, I just want to thank you for sort of minding the budget codes over the years in terms of that, because I agree with you. Although it sounds like an excessive amount of money, 900,000 in the budget of 155 million is quite frugal. So I'm grateful to you for that. So thank you. That's it. Okay.
I'll just add, is this working? Can you guys hear me? Okay. This has been a grueling season, especially for my tenure on the board. We've definitely gone over this a lot, and I just want to thank you for all your diligence and putting together the budget for us and sticking with us. So I just wanted to say that all my questions were asked by the other board members and answered, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think you really, I was going to say you're excused, but I don't think so. Thanks, Mr. DeVito. Student organization comments? Okay. Questions and comments from the public on tonight's agenda only? Teachers' treasurer's report for February 2024. No action needed. Approval of minutes for executive session and regular meeting of March 12, 2024, and the executive session and work session meeting of March 26, 2024. May I have a motion?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Kelsey?
Yes.
Ms. Pace?
Yes.
Ms. Conway? And I vote yes. Presentation of the superintendent?
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. I'd ask the district clerk to read a walk-on resolution for this evening. Be it resolved that the tenured teacher named in executive session be suspended with pay effective April 17, 2024, pending the outcome of disciplinary proceedings brought pursuant to the provisions of Section 3020A of the Education Law of the State of New York.
May I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Kelsey?
Yes.
Ms. Pace?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Conway, yes, and I vote yes.
Item 2, certificated personnel.
May I have a motion?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Item 2.
Certificated personnel?
Dr. Ryan, I just want to I know we have some retirements, so I just really want to thank everybody for their hard work and dedication to our community, to our schools. You know, it's not always an easy job, and you always come willing to help and do your best. So we wish you the best on your retirement, and we will miss you.
Any other discussion? Ms. Delsey?
Yes.
Ms. Pace?
Yes.
Ms. Conley?
Yes.
I vote yes.
Item 2, non-certificated personnel.
We have a motion?
Motion.
I'll second it. Any discussion? Ms. Delsey?
Yes.
Ms. Pace?
Yes.
Ms. Conley?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
I'd ask the board to consider items 3 and 4 together, the adoption of the budget and the property tax report card.
Are those two separate items?
They are.
Would you please explain what the property tax report card is?
Mr. DeVito, you can do that way better than I.
So after the board adopts the budget, then we have to report to the state what that budget is with some other information in the form of a property tax report card. Everybody in the community will receive a copy of that in one of our mailers, so they'll get all that information. It talks about the percent increase. I believe it also puts in like a 3-part budget, top property tax report card. And it also discusses what happens if there's a contingent budget, which is if the budget is voted down. So it provides some basic information that we file with the state and also becomes informative to the voters.
Okay, thank you. So those are 2 separate motions?
Well, you can.
Separate, yes.
Okay.
We normally do them together. If you'd like to do
Yes,
item 3 first.
Yes, we vote on 3 first. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Any second?
Second.
Discussion?
I would like to read a statement I would like to read a statement from trustee Mr. Pinto, who was unable to be here tonight. Is that okay if I do that right now, Dr. Ryan? Thank you, I was trying to. Sorry. Due to a longstanding family commitment, he is unable to attend tonight in person, and therefore he is unable to vote on the budget. This is from Mr. Pinto, by the way. It seems like we have felt annual disruptions from Albany impacting public education. The earlier reported loss of funding could have greatly disrupted our community, and I am glad that because of the advocacy of many, it was replenished, and we now have the time to do our diligence and work as a community for the steps in the future. In regards to this upcoming budget, we need to plan responsibly and balance the needs of the students and the impact on our community. Our schools do more than just educate our children, and we need to continue to focus on promoting student achievements academically, socially, and emotionally, while being fiscally responsible on behalf of the community.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll put it to a vote.
Wait, Doc, I would also just like to say, just very quick, I'm sorry.
Don't apologize.
Okay.
Take your time.
I just really want to put a big thank you to Mr. DeVito and Dr. Gallagher, Dr. Natali, and their whole central government, Mr. Brian Oper. This has been one of the most disruptive budget times I think I've ever experienced as a parent and as a community member and as a Board of Ed trustee. And these individuals really worked together as a team with us and tried to listen to our community, focusing on our students' needs and to maintain the program's integrity. I really can't thank them enough. I know they spent many sleepless nights, just like we did as board members, going over this. So I really want to give them a big thank you. I know it's not maybe this budget, I feel, keeps our students as our focus, which is really what we want to do. We want to ensure that our students receive the best education that we can possibly give them. And I know that this budget does so. So I really want to thank you again for putting our students first and for all that you do for our community. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, for vote. Ms. Delsey?
Yes.
Ms. Pace?
Yes.
Ms. Conley?
Yes.
And I vote no. I vote no because 3 months ago, there was an option put forward to close each school, and I was the only board member that supported that motion. I support it again today because I think it's in the best interest of this community, long-term, in terms of everybody in the community, not just one school or one part of the community. I think it's in the best interest of those that don't have children, those whose children have left, the senior citizens, or even the kids at each school. I think it does propose wonderful educational opportunities. So I'm concerned moving forward. I agree with Mrs. Conway and Mrs. Pace and Mrs. Belsey, I'm sure would agree that it's been a very difficult budget season for everyone from the middle of January to present. But I would think that had we moved in the other direction, and once again, I'm a minority on this Board of Education in that respect, but I think long-term it would have fared us much, much better moving into territory that the governor is proposing concerning foundation aid and projected cuts. So I vote no on the budget.
I'd ask the board to consider item 4, the property tax report cards.
May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? When does that report card go out, Mr. Vito, roughly?
Within 24 hours, so it'll go out tomorrow. Oh, you mean to the public?
Yes.
I'll have to check with Syntax, our communications firm, as to what the expected date of receipt will be.
Right, but well in advance of the election.
Well in advance, yeah.
Right,
It's a
okay.
requirement, it has to be.
Okay, and I just want to make sure that one year Syntax had an error on that property tax card. I'd like to make sure that you or somebody, central administration or on the board, has an opportunity to look at the draft before it goes out. Would that be,
We can do that.
all right, I appreciate that. Thank
We'll
you.
just double check it.
Any other discussion? Ms. Belsey?
Yes.
Ms. Pace?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Item number 5 is the approval of the BOCES budget and BOCES candidates for their board.
May I have a motion?
Motion.
I'll second it. Any discussion? Ms. Belsey?
Yes.
Ms. Pace?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
I'd ask the board to consider items 6 through 9 together.
Okay. I'll make a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Dr. Gallagher, do you know how many students will be in this summer school program yet?
I do not. We generally don't know that until the fourth quarter average is posted.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Ms. Belsey?
Yes.
Ms. Pace?
Yes.
Ms. Conway? Yes. I vote yes.
Item number 10 is the adoption of the amended policy on public use of school facilities.
May I have a motion?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I just want to, since I'm on this committee, I just wanted to thank the superintendent, Mr. DeVito, our director of building facilities, Mr. Epstein, Ms. Nolan, Mr. Clark, and Mrs. Conway, well, director of facilities, Mr. Kramer, for their work in terms of developing this new policy concerning the use of facilities. Any other discussion? Okay, Ms. Belsey?
Yes.
Ms. Pace?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
And I'd ask the board to consider items 11 through 13 together.
Have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Second moved by Ms. Belsey. Any discussion? Ms. Belsey?
Yes.
Ms. Pace?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Board of Education, additional new or old business. I'd just like to ask, if I might, concerning the advisory committee, the parents from each school have asked for the establishment of an advisory committee. Could you just please give us an update, Dr. Gallagher, in terms of where that is and some
Sure.
kind of projected timeline for that advisory committee?
Sure. So last week I met with the PTA presidents from the different PTAs, explained the process to them a bit. I have asked them to submit 2 representatives from each school's PTA. Each of the 3 unions has been asked to submit 2 representatives from those groups. We have the 5 representatives from the board and 2 board members, central administration. The committee will meet on May 1st for the first time. And we've set up 2 meetings in May, 2 in June,
and we'll set up summer meetings as we get towards the end.
Any other Board of Ed? Additional new or old business?
Grace, did you want to come?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, and I respect Dr. Ryan's position on the budget, and the thoughts that he shared, but I just want to reiterate that he is, and he did say, he is in the minority on that. So I just wanted to reiterate that for the public, so it does not get misconstrued that that is the opinion of the board.
Thank you. So first of all, I'm very excited for the middle school play that's coming up this Thursday. Dr. Seuss, Brothers Grimm Spectacular Thon. So usually the middle school has these amazing plays. So I encourage any of you Thursday, Friday, come on down and watch it. Kids do a fantastic job. I bring my mom, and my mom doesn't really leave my house often, but she will leave my house to go see the plays at the middle school and the high school, and she always leaves them smiling. With all this budget season and all of the difficulties, we haven't been speaking at all about food services. And I remember being a parent sitting there, and food services used to be a huge conversation, and now it's not any longer. And I'd like to know, Mr. DeVito, how is our food service program doing?
Well, thank you for asking. The program's actually doing really well. We've had higher than ever, well, not ever, but in the past several years, participation, which is great. So I think it's a combination. I don't think it's only because our meals are now free, because the government changed the threshold for free for all meals for the whole district, but I think also because students are happy with the offerings as well. I know that Mr. Swan and his team are always looking and working to see what they could add, how it could be different, looking at the different product choices that still comply with the regulations, and adding some new offerings, and I think the kids are happy with it. I also know that we've been doing great work with our Farm to School initiative, bringing in new products, fresh products, local products that we serve in a variety of ways, whether it's some creative potatoes from the potatoes or apples or corn. That's an added feature. I also know that there's a big effort to listening. I know that there's been some committees formed and that he's trying to incorporate students in the decision-making process. So I'd have to say it's doing well. I don't know yet where we are in terms of the bottom line. I know that we're going to be working on, the actual final numbers for the end of the year in terms of our performance from a financial standpoint. But I can tell you in terms of participation, that students are participating in breakfast and lunch at higher numbers than they have in the past several years.
Well, I also know that there has been more fresh fruit offerings that the students are very happy about. And I remember Mr. Swan bringing some of those samples to us a while back. So please give him our thanks. And for listening to the students, I remember when the student came, I believe our meeting was in the Lido School, when a student came up and asked about being on a committee about food. So I'm really happy to hear that our students' voices are being heard. So thank you, Mr. DeVito.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to ask the superintendent, Newsday had a special concerning absenteeism. And just an update, sort of chronic absenteeism since COVID has been a problem throughout the country, probably throughout the world. So where are we in terms of, I saw the numbers, we seem to be trending in the right direction. Are you comfortable, the building administrators comfortable with the average daily attendances in their respective buildings?
So I think comfortable is not the word that I would use. I think we would like to see our regular attendance increase, our chronic absenteeism decrease. But I will tell you it's the lowest it's been since I've been superintendent here. And I particularly want to commend the high school. The high school has been typically where we saw the highest numbers, even prior to COVID, to be honest. And the high school is a full 10% lower than it was last year at this time. And those numbers usually go down because the report is cumulative based on the number of possible attendance days thus far. So chronic absence is 18 days a year. Right now it's about 11 or 12 on the report. So I'm really happy with the progress that our team has made. And I think, you know, we have always been ahead of the game kind of district in looking at student, it's not about compliance and beating kids over the head and chewing officers, it's about engaging them in learning and putting together a program and a community and an environment that makes students want to come to school. And we've spoken openly about the need for change in high schools, particularly in the next, you know, 3 or 4 years. And I'm proud that we're part of a team that's really leading the way.
Thank you. Any questions, questions?
Comments from the public? Anybody? Just want to remind you, if you're here for the first time, name and address. And there's a 3-minute limit on the presentation, and we try to refrain from any kind of applause or any kind of negative reaction to what is said by public speaker. Thank you.
Hi, Danielle Ferraro, 460 East Hudson Street. I just was looking for a little clarification on a few of the things. I know, actually, they all seem to be on one slide. The one with the musical instruments, I know there was, is that for all of the schools? Is that just for the elementary schools that are starting it with the instruments? Who's eligible for that if you've already started with an instrument? And, you know, that was one of my questions. I keep seeing, and I keep needing to ask about the mechanic position. What is that, like a mechanic within, like, that works on the school building, or is like a teacher? Oh, okay. So we think that our new electric buses are gonna not break down?
No, it's one of the mechanics that was actually assigned to middle school. So we have usually teams of mechanics. They work as a pair. Some specialize in carpentry, have skills in carpentry or plumbing or electric. And then the high school and the middle school had one mechanic that was dedicated to that building that would just be on site instead of us having to call one of the mechanics who go district-wide and go from building to building. So because we knew we were in a budget crunch, we felt like at this time that mechanic was retiring, we would not replace that mechanic and eliminate that line as a way of achieving some budget savings.
Okay. Yeah. And the musical instruments, it's just a shift in how we obtain them. We've rented some and purchased some before across the district, no matter what schools. This will be, instead of renting, we'll be doing this lease to own. So we'll get maybe, you know, a few more useful years out of the life of higher quality instruments. Sometimes rental instruments are kind of not great quality. So it's just a shift in how we obtain the instruments for students. But exactly which students get them, that I'm not sure.
So that's what I mean. So, like, my son started playing the instrument this year. It was his first year. So we went out and got that. So are you saying that the school has some of their own, if you like, can't afford it, or okay, I just didn't know where those were coming from.
Yeah, I think many people, if they can, like to purchase their own so that the student has one.
Right.
But we provide.
Okay.
I think that was it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Hi, Jennifer Bayless, 25 Barn Street. I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. So funding for in-district related services based on changes in student needs identified through the annual review process. Does that have to do with IEPs? And since IEPs aren't done, until the end of June, how can that be decided already?
Is that your only question?
Yeah, that's my only question. Then I just want to make a comment.
Sure. So as Mr. DeVito said, it's really just a shift in providing those services with in-house people, a shift that we've been making this year. So we can obviously, if we have some kind of big increase, we'd have to look at that again. But we actually hired people to provide some of the related services because it was a better way to service our kids. And so the budget is reflecting that shift from bringing people in agencies to having our own people service them. They actually have more capacity to do that stuff.
Okay. And then I just wanted to point out that with the committee, it's not just East people, it's people from all over the district because Dr. Ed, I'd like to have said something about East people. And just, to clarify, it's about, a school, not a particular school, and going through all of the schools, visiting all the schools, discussing what it might be like, if we were reducing 2, 3 schools, potentially, but not even necessarily doing that at all. And, that's why people have been so much quieter, because that's what it is. It's not about, closing a particular school, and just hoping that, by saying no, that you're not, signaling people to like vote no to the budget, because if that's what you're doing, then we'd like people to, when they listen to this, meeting tonight, to know that they should really come out and full force and vote for this budget, because voting no to a budget will hurt every single person that has a child that goes to a school in the Long Beach School District. And that is who, the school board works for, no matter what. Whether you're a parent or a student or on the school board or work for the school district. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, I think what Dr. Ryan said was that the East School parents had raised the idea that they wanted the committee, but you are correct that the language has changed and that the focus is now going to be on going from 4 schools to 3. And there's no particular school that is highlighted in that, but I also want to thank you for bringing up the point about our budget, because the budget is important. And it is a vote for the community, and you are correct. When a budget fails, it fails unanimously, and it fails everyone in the district. So I appreciate you bringing up that point, I really do. Thank you.
And I just would add that as agents of the district, we legally can't ask people to vote yes on a budget, but you can.
Anybody else? Usually you're only allowed once, but
Please make it brief. Thank you. You won't have to introduce yourself again, though.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi again. I wanted to say, I understand your comments about your not agreeing with the budget as it is right now, and that you are very clear about wanting to close a school or one in particular. But I think what also our hopes for this committee is, although I don't feel that our, closing a school is the right move, that it's not just done in haste. And so I know that, you felt now was a good time, but I think that maybe just everybody having the conversation, we are all looking to do the right thing for our community and for our children, and, that it's not just leave it open no matter what, but that's, which one and when, and if it is the right time. And I don't think that we can make that decision now. And so the purpose of the committee would be to find the right answer.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, sorry. Take your time. Take your time.
So Karen Axelson, 668 Lincoln. I did bring up the last time, but I would just like to bring up again, given the opportunity for comment, that I would like the district to consider consolidating in a way where the special education classes are offered, so that as kids move through different and least restrictive environments, they are not required to transfer schools during their elementary, middle school, high school careers. Also with the information about the potential impending school closing, I have to wonder about the money spent sending children out of district, talking about the decreasing enrollment. Could we keep some of those children that we are sending out of district in our district, keep some of these educators, employed from reducing these positions, and better manage these kids within our own city? Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Announcements? Classroom Teacher Association, Bobby? No announcements. Administrative Supervisor and PPS Group, Mr. Beesman? No announcements.
LDSEA, Long Beach School Board Employees Association, Group C? Nope. Thank you. Parent Teacher Association?
Hi, I just wanted to sort of send out a little save the date because the CCPTA in partnership with the district is hosting a mental health forum on Monday, May 6th at the library. It is at 7:30 to 8:45 p.m. There'll be a hybrid option. The topic is warning signs of anxiety and depression from school age to adolescence. So this is going to cover pre-K through high school. There'll be several moderators. Right now we have Mr. Myers and Ms. Northcutt, and we have Dr. Brancaccio, the medical director at South Oaks, is going to be there to answer questions, and also Dr. Matt Cohen. So if anybody, I know we're all concerned about our children's mental health. If this is something that anybody would like to attend, we would love to see you there.
What time is it?
It is Monday, March 6th. It is at the
May
Long,
6th.
May 6th. Thank you. At the Long Beach Library. It's from 7:30 to 8:45 p.m. There'll be a hybrid option, so there'll be Zoom and an invitation will go out. And this is put on by both the district and the CCPTA.
Great, thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
We have a second. I just want to wish anybody who celebrates Passover next week, vacation, have a pleasant holiday on behalf of the Board of Education. So thank you. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Motion is, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
I just want to make sure.